morning, ladies and gentlemen. The resolution for debate today is be it resolved that Canada's pornography laws...
Let's for a moment look beyond the obvious practical flaws of the affirmative
and look at the simple facts, logically.
What kind of people are we?
First of all,
we're not gods to decide who should live and who should die.
Chris also just admitted, the system does not meet its own
Now,
goals.
when author D.H. Lawrence wrote this...
You're an experienced debater. You can tell a good debater from a poor one. But what makes a debater truly excellent?
and violent crimes against women.
Hello, my name is Fred Keating. As a student, I was a debater, so I know how important debate skills are in professional life, whether you become a lawyer, an athletics coach, or a television host. That's why I'm pleased to host this series on debate excellence. In this program, we're going to talk about achieving excellence. It isn't easy. It comes with practice and experience. Excellent debaters are communicators. They know how to express their ideas clearly so that you understand them, and persuasively so you want to believe them. They know the value of excellent preparation, a comprehensive knowledge of the topic being debated, and a thorough understanding of what the topic means, practically and philosophically. Excellent presentation, putting together a clear, organized argument and explaining it to the judges in the most effective way possible. Excellent debate begins the moment you find out the debate resolution.
Be it resolved that Canada's pornography laws be significantly changed.
Okay.
I guess we better hit the library.
Now you need information. And that means research. If your debate involves a legal topic, for example, start by getting copies of the legislation. Hit the libraries for background information, but don't stop with books. Call the provincial or federal government. They'll likely have lots of information and be happy to send it to you.
So in that respect, I really feel there should be some changes.
Now the most important step.
How do the current pornography laws affect your work in television?
Once you know something about the topic, talk to experts in the community. Professors, lawyers, judges, and others can help you understand the issues.
So did you find anything?
Oh, I found great books.
I'll try to find a legal aid here. See if you can...
There is no substitute for good research when planning your affirmative and negative cases. Knowledge makes you a better speaker, too. No need to rely so heavily on notes because you know the facts and you understand the arguments. The more you know, the less likely it is that the other side can surprise you. More likely, you'll surprise them. Research is important in impromptu debate, too, but the library you use is the knowledge stored in your own brain. So the more you know about politics, current affairs, philosophy, history, science, literature, or the law, the more effective you'll be. There's more to debate than just knowing the facts. You have to understand what they mean. Every debate has a philosophical base. Many debate resolutions grow out of philosophical dilemmas that are as old as discussion itself. For example, when you debate mandatory seatbelt laws, gun control, language laws in Quebec, you're really discussing the proper balance between the rights of the individual and the powers of the state to protect itself and its citizens. When you debate capital punishment, changes to the parole system, or changes to the laws governing young offenders, you're really discussing the age-old question, should criminals simply be punished, or should we help them reform? So when you start planning your case, you have to decide what you're really talking about.
You know, I think this whole pornography issue is really more about the rights of women and the role of women in our society.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, is it right that men look at women that way?
I don't know. After all, not all pornography involves women. Isn't it just a question of morality?
How's that?
Whether or not we should allow stuff like that in our society.
You're right. I guess it isn't just about women, but it's not just about the morality of pornography either. I think it's about whether people should be free to read or watch whatever they want.
Yeah, go on.
Or whether the government has some kind of duty or responsibility to control stuff that's immoral
or that it exploits people.
Right.
This debate is really about the rights of the individual versus the responsibilities of the state.
Now they're at the heart of the issue. Why is freedom of expression, the freedom to read or watch or do whatever you want, so important? Why is it sometimes the government's responsibility to limit that freedom? Look beyond the surface details at the larger issues. So a lot of what makes you a good debater, research and analysis, happens before the debate itself. Now you have to present your knowledge and understanding of the issues. Your presentation begins the moment you step into the room, on time and ready to debate. Debate dress is professional. Leave the miniskirts and blue jeans for less formal occasions. Professional dress convinces people you're serious and worth listening to.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The resolution before us today is be it resolved that Canada's pornography laws be significantly changed. Now, so that we can proceed on a ground of common understanding, I'd like to begin by defining the key terms of the resolution. By pornography...
Define the terms of the resolution in a way that is reasonable and fair to both teams.
Purpose is to arouse or to offend. By pornography laws, we mean those sections of the criminal code that deal with sexual obscenity. And significantly changed will be defined as amended so as to meet the proper criteria for a law putting necessary controls on freedom of speech. My partner and I believe...
The case you present should be simple and well organized, with perhaps 3 needs for change, or 3 goals or criteria, or comparative advantages, backed up with evidence and examples.
My partner and I believe that there are 3 essential criteria for the passing of a good law. First, a good law must provide protection for those groups being exploited, offended, or attacked.
After explaining reasons for change, you present your plan. Make it straightforward. A complicated plan is hard to explain and vulnerable to the negative attack. A basic, effective plan is easy to present and defend.
Our plan is a simple but effective one, ladies and gentlemen. We will amend the current obscenity laws so that they meet our criteria. The first thing that we will do is to pass stricter laws protecting the victims of child pornography. Secondly, we will expand the literature monitoring system that currently exists here in Canada to prevent the spread of pornographic material. And thirdly, we will introduce a system of
But
public
remember,
education
the essence
for
of
all
excellent
forms of
debate is
communication.
direct clash. If there is no clash, no point-counterpoint, then there is no debate, just a series of disjointed speeches.
I'd like to thank my learned colleague opposite for her remarks today, but we in the team simply cannot accept the affirmative's case. Let's begin today by looking at the various criteria on which they have based their arguments. Ladies and
Debate
gentlemen,
is a formal
one of the criteria
conversation.
stated,
Whether you are debating affirmative or negative,
on
listen
literature and other
carefully.
medium of communication
When your opponent
to be
raises a
free
point,
Let's
answer
look
it
at what
and
they
respond with an argument of your
say
own.
to ourselves,
Don't get
why
sidetracked by
should, in
details.
fact, their
Refute
morality
the
be
major
imposed on us?
points.
Why should Margot Denham's morality be imposed on me?
And remember,
What
question the
moral
underlying
does
philosophy
concern
of your
my
opponent's case.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's for a moment look beyond the obvious practical flaws of the affirmative's plan. Let's look at what kind of world would be created if their laws would be implemented. Their entire philosophy flies in the face of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Their plan is not only unenforceable, it is contrary to Canada's entire history of a nation of tolerance and freedom. We, the negative team, simply cannot
Now, what
accept
about
the
flow
affirmative's
sheets?
case.
Use them as a tool to keep track of the essential arguments of the debate, but don't get
One
trapped
of the
by the
important
sheet.
criteria
You don't have to refute your opponent's answers in exactly the order they were given. Group your ideas together by subject. Synthesize your clash into an argument that flows logically from point to point. And don't forget to look at the big picture. Now, let's talk about speaking skills. An excellent debater establishes a relationship with the judges. makes eye contact, uses hand gestures, moves forward to make important points, raises and lowers the voice for emphasis, and speaks in clear, persuasive tones. An excellent debater makes effective use of the space around the desk or podium and uses notes only when necessary. Every debate and every debater has a unique style. Everyone has to find his or her own charisma and make it work. Some debaters are lively, some passionate.
In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I ask you to look beyond the affirmative's curious picture of a nation being destroyed by Playboy magazine. Look beyond it and see the truth, that being the slow erosion of freedom of speech. And that's not just the freedom to be able to read controversial books. It's the freedom to participate in forums such as this very debate. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, simply put, this resolution must fall.
Some debaters have a very cool and logical approach.
Ladies and gentlemen, my friend Mr. Kerr just gave a very passionate speech about how our changes to the pornography law may be the end of freedom of speech. Now let's put the rhetoric aside and look at the simple facts, logically. First of all, no one is threatening serious works of art. Certainly, our plan does not threaten freedom of political speech. This debate deals solely with
Whatever the style, excellent debaters are always polite. No need to bully opponents or make them look stupid. In fact, excellent debaters know the better their opponents, the better the debate. Good opponents challenge and inspire you, and the better their arguments, ideas, and speeches, the better yours have to be. All this mutual respect doesn't mean you can't be funny, but keep it light. Be witty and good-natured. Use humor to build your case, not to cut people down.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, when discussing the whole issue of pornography, one must treat it as a very ticklish issue. After all, one man's immoral temptation is another man's favorite wallpaper. And to the photographer who created that picture, it may very well be an expression of his art. An example, if you will, of his professional excellence. So how would you...
Watch the judges and the audience carefully. If you see furrowed brows or shaking heads, you may have to explain yourself more clearly, or use another example.
But let me give you another example, a historical and literary example, that of the novel Lady Chatterley's Lover. Now, when author D.H. Lawrence wrote this book, many people considered it pornographic. And because of that, the novel occupies a very important place in the annals of Canadian obscenity law. Not that it is...
All the research and analysis in the world won't help if you can't communicate your arguments in a way people can understand and believe. Now, think about your last debate. How much research did you do? Do you wish you'd known more about the topic, that you'd understood it better? Think back. What was the real philosophical question at the root of that last debate resolution? Now think about your next debate. What new research resources will you try? What experts can you talk with for advice and information?
Good morning,
How did you present yourself at that last debate? Did your clothes and your manners say you were serious about the ideals of debate? Did you behave with good sportsmanship, whether you won or lost? Think about your debate speeches. How could you have improved them? Was your plan too complicated? Did you rely too heavily on notes? Was your clash superficial? Or did you reach beyond the details of the debate to look at the big picture? Now think about your own personal charisma. What is your unique debate style? Are you intense, logical, funny? Can you combine different styles and adjust for various topics and audiences? Finally, think about the really excellent debaters you've seen. What made them great? Chances are they were prepared. They knew the facts and understood the issues. They were in control, ready and eager to react to a surprise strategy or tactic. Their case was probably simple and elegant. They clashed in the best debate tradition without getting bogged down in details. They moved past the points of the flow sheet to synthesize various elements of the debate into one coherent argument. And they probably had a speaking style all their own that caught your attention and made you want to listen. They showed real teamwork, as well as respect for their opponents, recognizing that a truly great debate is the work of 4 people, not 1. When you become that excellent debater, you'll win more than trophies and medals. You'll win the respect and admiration of peers and carry the philosophy of debate beyond the competition and into the rest of your life. Parliamentary debate, a tradition reaching back more than 700 years, to the day Simon de Montfort called the first English Parliament. Since then, parliamentary debate has been the cornerstone of our legislative process and the basis of our judicial system. Hello, I'm Fred Keating. Welcome to our program on excellence in parliamentary debate. This style is a favorite of many debaters, possibly because the rich traditions of parliamentary democracy add so much drama and fun to the debate. For most of us, it's our only chance to be prime minister or leader of the opposition. But because parliamentary role-playing can be so much fun, some debaters get distracted and forget to debate. So the secret of excellence is to get into your role with enthusiasm, but don't forget to respect the serious purpose and traditions of parliamentary debate. Remember, you're there to get something done, to make the laws that govern your country.
This House will come to order. The bill before the House today is, be it resolved that Canada's laws governing pornography be significantly changed. I now introduce the Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Margot Denham, to introduce the bill.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I rise in the House today to speak to a matter of great urgency, a matter affecting the very morality.
Excellent parliamentary debate begins with strict adherence to parliamentary procedure and language. Suddenly, you're not a student, you're a prime minister. You're not in a classroom, you're in a House of Commons debating a bill, one that you want to pass into law. Parliament has had a somewhat violent history. That's why tradition dictates that the Speaker control debate in the House. All debaters address the Speaker. They do not speak directly to one another or to the audience.
Madam Speaker, the Minister of Justice and I are pleased to present a 3-point plan. This plan will address several key comparative advantages.
The Prime Minister's first speech is shorter than the rest because she is given time at the end of the debate for the official government rebuttal. It's important that this first constructive speech be simple and well organized. In just a few minutes, the Prime Minister has to explain why and how the government wants to change the present system. The PM can also set the tone and determine how serious or light-hearted the debate will be.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I beg to propose.
I thank the Prime Minister very much for her remarks, and now call upon the Honourable Member from Beaver Creek to deliver his address to the House.
Good afternoon, Madam Speaker, honourable judges, worthy opponents. And I'd especially like to thank Margot for her extremely eloquent speech.
Point of order, Madam Speaker.
Please state your point.
I believe the honourable member from Beaver Creek has forgotten where he is. He has addressed me and the members of the gallery directly without going through you.
That point is well taken, and I would ask the honourable member from Beaver Creek to address his remarks through the Speaker.
My apologies, Madam Speaker, and my apologies to the House. However, I must have been taken aback by the audacity of the government's proposal. For the bill that the government has put forth before this House today is a direct attack upon the Canadian Constitution and a direct attack upon the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Madam Speaker, let us examine this government case point by point. Point 1.
Madam Speaker, I rise on a point of order.
A point of order occurs when a debater breaks a basic procedural rule of the House. But an excellent debater also knows when and when not to rise on a point of order. For example, in many tournaments, it is a rule of parliamentary procedure that men must wear ties. So, in a very light-hearted show debate, this might happen.
Point of order, Madam Speaker. The honourable member from Beaver Creek has failed to indicate his proper respect for the House. He is not wearing a tie.
That point is well taken.
My apologies, Madam Speaker. I do happen to have a tie right here. However, I thought I might do more disrespect to the House by wearing such a tie. However, if the honourable member feels that it is essential that I wear such a tie, I shall do so.
But that can backfire badly in more serious settings. Imagine this scene.
Madam Speaker, we are talking about one of the most serious issues that a democracy ever has to confront. Is the right of the government to defend its citizens from being morally outraged and offended more important than freedom of expression?
Madam Speaker, I rise on a point of order.
State your point.
The honourable member from Beaver Creek is not wearing a tie.
I'm going to rule that not well taken. Under the circumstances, I find it frivolous and vexatious, and I caution the Minister of Justice about disrupting the decorum of the House in the future.
Don't be afraid to use points of order, but only when you have good reason. Use them to raise the quality of debate. For example, if you have an inexperienced opponent or an inexperienced speaker and the rules of the House are being badly broken. But don't raise points of order just to be a nuisance.
I now call upon the Minister of Justice to deliver her address.
Well, 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 Madam Speaker. This country certainly has come to a sorry pass when members of Her Majesty's loyal opposition begin defending perversion and filth. Just because the member from Beaver Creek watches dirty movies and reads dirty magazines, that is no reason why the rest of the nation should have to suffer.
Point of personal privilege, Madam Speaker.
State your point.
The Honourable Minister of Justice has called into question both my good name and my moral character. At no time did I ever say that I watched erotic movies. We of the opposition are simply defending the rights of others to do so. We are talking about
points of personal privilege are used to respond to personal insults that call a member's integrity into question. If you slander others or call them liars, you can expect them to rise on a point of personal privilege. After all, you haven't just insulted a member. You've insulted all the people of the constituency he or she represents. However, if you're on the receiving end, before you leap to your feet in protest, make sure you've really been maligned.
The member from Beaver Creek said earlier that our plan would mean sweeping censorship of the arts. This statement is typical of the hysterical fear-mongering that one might expect from Her Majesty's loyal opposition. In reality, however, our plan does not pose any...
Madam Speaker, point of personal privilege.
State your point.
The Honourable Minister of Justice has called me an hysterical fearmonger.
I'm ruling that a point not well taken. I believe it was an attack on opposition policy and not a direct attack on your personal character. Please take your seat.
Like points of order, points of personal privilege can be used to keep the debate running smoothly and to add life and humor to it. But make sure you pick the right time in the right debate to use them. Sometimes, even if you do have a legitimate point, it isn't worth your while to disrupt the debate for a petty complaint.
I now call upon the leader of Her Majesty's loyal opposition.
Now, Madam Speaker, after listening to the government's case, you would think that pornography was the greatest social problem faced by the Canadian society today.
Madam Speaker, Would the honorable member entertain a question?
Yes, Madam Speaker, I will entertain a question.
Would the honorable member explain how the opposition justifies the support of a questionable element in our society which demeans women and children?
Occasionally, debaters will be asked a question or point of information. They will often refuse to answer because the question interrupts the flow of the speech. However, if they feel the tables can be turned by answering, they'll use the opportunity to advantage.
Madam Speaker, though the honorable government member would like to depict us as lovers of dissolutes, we are in fact protecting everyone's right to freedom of expression, a basic and inalienable right.
So ask or answer questions carefully, as they might be turned against you.
You can say that again, and probably better, too.
Ah, yes, the heckle. It's probably the most entertaining and rewarding element of parliamentary debate. It's also the hardest to master. Heckles should be short and clever. They should add to the quality of a debate. In a humorous debate, they can win you laughs. In a more serious debate, they can be witty rapier thrusts that show up weaknesses in the other side's logic or evidence. Either way, they can be used strategically to throw the other side off balance. But excellent debaters know that heckling is a special art, an art where timing is everything. You may have a great heckle, but call it out a moment too late and your wit falls flat. If you can't heckle cleverly and effectively, it's better not to heckle at all.
Clearly, Madam Speaker, the government's plan flies in the face of this nation's Constitution and Charter of Rights.
That's what you think.
Yes, Madam Speaker, that is what I think, because it happens to be true.
But if you do have a decent heckle, call it out, loud and clear.
To infringe on these rights is a heinous crime.
Like child pornography?
No, Madam Speaker, it is nothing
So,
like these. In fact,
if you learn how to heckle, question, use points of order and points of personal privilege, will you be an excellent parliamentary debater? Not quite. Those are just the basics. Any good debater has to know them. To be an excellent parliamentary debater, you have to go one step further. You have to understand what makes parliamentary debate different from other forms of debate and learn to use those differences to best advantage.
In conclusion, Madam
First,
Speaker,
parliamentary debate lends itself to a more dramatic, charismatic speaking style. Because you adopt the character of a national leader, you have the opportunity to speak with more flourish. Excellent parliamentary debaters know this is a format where they can really make use of the full force of their personalities in playing out their roles.
Finally, Madam Speaker, we have presented a sensible plan that protects Canadians from the most violent and exploitive pornography while still protecting the rights of serious artists.
Ah, the power of drama. The second unique aspect of parliamentary debate is spontaneity. With all those heckles and points of order and privilege, you have to think on your feet. That's why it's usually the form used for impromptu debates and show debates. Anything can happen, and usually does. You need a broad general knowledge, a quick wit, some creativity, and some courage. You have to be ready for any curved ball your opponent throws you, and quickly come up with original responses. An excellent parliamentary debater knows when and how to throw all careful plans and preconceptions to the wind and get on with playing the game. That leads to the third key aspect of parliamentary debate: respect and admiration for your opponents and for the speaker. Government and opposition must work together to bring the illusion of parliamentary debate to life. The rituals of the debate form are like the choreography of a dance. Everyone must be in step, or the whole thing looks clumsy and awkward. There's no shortcut to excellence in parliamentary debate. It comes from experience, especially from debating opponents who are better than you are. Parliamentary debate should have all the vigor those 700 years of tradition provide. If you enter into the role and believe you are the Prime Minister or the leader of the opposition, your speaking will have more drama and more fire. And if you use your wit and your ability to think on your feet to take advantage of the spontaneous nature of parliamentary debate, you'll also have a great deal of fun.
Mr. Speaker, is it the case that the minister was aware of his...
Why did this government not anticipate federal concerns at the outset?
Mr. Speaker, my question to the minister is, will the ministers review the...
Order, please.
Discussion. Formal dialogue. It's the basis of our legal system, our democratic legislation, and in fact, most human communication.
Environmental impact assessment process.
Discussion allows us to express our ideas and state our points of view, and it helps us make daily decisions that govern our lives. Hello, I'm Fred Keating. Welcome to our program on excellence in discussion-style debate. The discussion format may be the purest form of debate. You step away from long speeches and clash directly on a range of points. Discussion format helps you synthesize those points into one logical case. Discussion looks natural and easy. After all, we have arguments and conversations in real life all the time. But excellent discussion-style debate takes careful preparation and planning and an ability to think on your feet. Excellent discussion begins the moment you find out the resolution.
Be it resolved that Canada reinstate capital punishment?
Good research is essential. You need to understand the subject and know the facts. The more you know, the better the questions you ask. And the more you know, the easier it will be to answer questions and use those questions to your advantage. Books and articles are a good beginning, but it's not enough to know the facts. You also need to know what they mean. So talk with experts in the field, lawyers, judges, professors, politicians. Get their opinions and ideas. You can only quote from published public sources, but your personal communications help you understand the important issues. Once you understand the topic, prepare your negative and affirmative cases. While you're planning, think of the major arguments both sides are likely to make. What kinds of questions can you ask about those arguments?
Yeah, bye. Thanks.
Okay, the affirmative is going to say that we need capital punishment. What kind of questions do you think we could ask them?
Well, we could ask them if they have any proof that capital punishment is a deterrent.
Right.
Or we could ask them if their plan will cost more money, because people who are convicted of murder are more likely to appeal their cases as long as possible.
That's a good one.
Or we could ask them if they know about American statistics that show blacks are more likely to be executed than whites.
That's great. Now, what kind of questions do you think they'll ask us?
Well, in their speeches, they'll probably argue that most Canadians want capital punishment. So maybe they'll ask us if we think that in a democracy, government should do what people want. How would we answer that?
Well, let's find out the most recent public opinion polls and see how many people really want capital punishment.
Good idea. The other team might not have the latest figures.
And then we could say that in a democracy, the government has to do what it thinks is best, not what the majority of the people want. I mean, most people don't want to pay taxes, so the government can't always do what the people want.
Great. Let's go get the poll now.
Write down as many affirmative and negative questions as you can. Decide which questions are really the best. Group them by subject. For example, put all questions about how much the plan will cost together and all questions about the morality of capital punishment together. Then figure out how you would answer those questions. After all, someone may ask them in the next round of the debate when you're on the other side. You probably won't get to use all those questions and answers in the debate, but organizing those lists will help you organize thoughts and information.
Good morning. I would now like to introduce the first speaker of the affirmative team, Kim Stewart, who will speak for 5 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, the resolution before us today is be it resolved that Canada reinstate capital punishment. I'd like to begin by defining the key words in the resolution. Reinstate, to bring
Listen
back,
carefully to the constructive speeches.
execute,
Write down your opponent's key points.
Capital punishment.
What questions can you ask about their arguments? You may find the questions you prepared in advance don't work.
Protecting civilization.
Imagine what would happen if you were the affirmative and the negative team presented a counterplan.
Ladies and gentlemen, we feel that there is a need for change. We do need capital punishment, but we cannot agree with the affirmative's plan. We propose that instead of hanging murderers, we adopt a more humane system using lethal injections. And we believe the capital punishment should only be used when there is no hope of rehabilitation. We feel that this way, the murderers...
All of a sudden, your carefully planned questions are useless. If you ask them, no direct clash. So use your prepared questions and answers as a guide, not a crutch. Always listen and think of new questions you could ask or be asked. By the end of 4 constructive speeches, you should have a good mix of questions to ask, some from your prepared list and some that have come up in the course of the debate.
We will now begin the discussion period. Landon?
Excellent discussion debaters know 4 major reasons to ask questions. First, to clarify information.
Several times you've quoted public opinion polls saying that most Canadians support capital punishment. Can you please tell me when the most recent poll was taken?
Kim?
You can use these questions to confirm basic information about your opponent's case, but use them sparingly. If you listen to their speeches carefully and are well prepared, you shouldn't need to ask too many information questions.
Tina?
Second, use questions to establish your authority. If you're well prepared, you'll realize when your opponents make a mistake, contradict themselves, or seem ignorant of an important fact. You'll also know if they quote facts or opinions out of context.
Landon?
In the negative speech, you argued that capital punishment is not a deterrent to murder. But in the stats you quoted, it dealt with everything from second-degree murder to manslaughter, when we're only concerned with first-degree murder.
Tina?
Establish your authority by asking questions that show your opponents do not know the facts or are twisting the facts to their advantage. And third, use the discussion period to focus the arguments.
And now I'd like to return to the case of Donald Marshall, who was convicted of a murder he didn't commit. Isn't it true that under your system, innocent people could die?
Kim?
You can use the discussion to focus on the weakest part of your opponent's case and the strongest arguments of your own.
If we have the responsibility...
Excellent discussion debaters use their questions and answers to establish the central issues of the debate. Don't waste time nitpicking. Stick to the big picture.
Yes, but
finally, use discussion to undermine the foundation of your opponent's case.
You said in your speech that murder is the worst crime because human life is sacred. But if you believe life is sacred, how can you favor capital punishment?
Every debater dreams of the perfect discussion question, one that shatters the opponent's case. That rarely happens because your opponent is usually smart enough to wriggle out of your trap.
Landon?
Yes, I believe that everyone has a right to life, but murderers give up that right when they commit their crimes and take away somebody else's life.
But don't worry. Your question isn't wasted. You've focused a major issue of the debate in the judges' minds. Now, make sure you or your partner comes back to that point in the rebuttal.
In the discussion period, ladies and gentlemen, Landon said that murderers give up their right to life. But in Landon's own words, human life is sacred. Whatever is crime, a human being is still a human being. If we treat him like an animal, what kind of people are we? We are not gods to decide who should live and who should die. Are we brutes?
That's the idea.
No.
But back to the discussion. Debaters are usually eager to ask questions. The biggest mistake they make is to avoid answering them.
Isn't it true that our prison system is overcrowded and expensive to run? Gloria?
Well, it depends on the prison. Now I have a question for you. How can you justify murder by society?
If you answer like that, the discussion period is just a waste of everybody's time. Sometimes a very short answer is good strategy, but excellent debaters try to take advantage of a question to explain their case again. They look beyond the surface of a question to its bigger meaning and clash by answering the question behind the question.
Isn't it true that our prison system is overcrowded and expensive to run?
Gloria?
Well, yes, our prison system is expensive to maintain, but you don't kill people just to save money. And murderers make up such a small percentage of the prison population, it wouldn't solve the problem anyways. Now I have a question for you. How can
That's
you
better.
justify murder when there's
Use
so
the
much
answer
against it
period to
yourself?
strengthen your case, and then, at the end, shoot questions to the other side. Remember, discussion is just that, a formal conversation. Be polite. It's not a race to see who can ask the most questions in the loudest voice. If your opponents are rude, handle them calmly, but firmly. By remaining cool in the face of verbal intimidation, you also remain in control of the debate. Work together as a team. Make sure you each ask and answer about the same number of questions. You should be prepared to answer questions about your partner's speech. If you understand the philosophy of your case well, you'll agree on the answers. As with any good conversation, debate discussion demands excellent listening skills. Pay careful attention to the questions and answers of your partner and your opponents. Be thinking of new questions that arise from your opponent's answers. Build on their remarks to keep the discussion moving forward. Remember, a truly superior discussion period requires excellent questions and answers from 4 debaters, not just one. Respect your opponents and use their opposition to help you clarify and express your own point of view.
The discussion period is now over. I thank the debaters for their participation. There will now be a 5-minute rebuttal preparation break.
She may think the discussion is over, but excellent debaters know the most important element of discussion lies ahead in the rebuttal. Now you must use the admissions and information your team gathered from the other side. If you made any damaging admission, make sure you correct the damage quickly in the rebuttal speech.
Ladies and gentlemen, throughout the discussion, we heard the negative team say that we had no right to execute murderers. Our answer is simple. The government does indeed have the right and the responsibility to protect its citizens. We are not executing people at random, as the negative implied in the discussion. We are making responsible use of the ultimate punishment to battle the ultimate crime. We are indeed...
Use the rebuttal to show the judges how and why you won the discussion period and the debate. Discussion-style debate, working toward better, more reasoned and informed decisions. Now that's worth talking about.
It is the considered opinion of the judging panel that this debate has been won by the affirmative.
Yeah!
Cross-examination. The term conjures up pictures of Perry Mason, L.A. law, or street legal. Criminals and clients on the witness stand answering questions. Lawyers searching out truth. Cross-examination is one of the essential elements of our Canadian legal system. We believe that if we sift through the evidence and testimony by asking probing questions, by challenging people to defend and prove their assertions, we can eventually arrive at the truth. Hello, I'm Fred Keating. Welcome to our program on excellence in cross-examination debate. Many debaters believe that cross-examination style is the most basic and satisfying form of debate. It allows you to confront your opponent one-on-one and to question directly his or her case. Cross-examination, but as every lawyer knows, excellent cross-examination is also hard work. The best cross-examination may look lively and spontaneous, but it takes careful planning. You and your partner need to research thoroughly and devise strategy. Suppose you're discussing the resolution, be it resolved that Canada's parole system be significantly changed. Your first step, thorough research. Read reports, books, and articles.
I see. So 20%.
Talk with experts in the field. If you know the issue, you'll be able to come up with original, challenging questions your opponents may not expect.
Great news. Yeah, we have some information on the Solicitor General's report, and basically...
You'll be ready and willing to answer almost any question the other side has for you, and you'll be able to think on your feet when things don't go according to plan. As you map out your affirmative and negative cases, sort through the most obvious and strongest arguments for and against each side. For example, when preparing your affirmative case, ask yourself, how can I defend this case against the negative, and attack the arguments the negative is most likely to use?
Why don't we look...
To be really prepared, you should plan out some lines of questions in advance, using question trees.
Why don't we assume that the affirmative strategy is going to be to drastically limit parole?
Okay. Well, I think we should point out that parole is a useful tool to help offenders integrate back into society.
Okay.
The first question should be simple.
Do you believe that we can keep offenders in jail forever?
The witness will almost certainly say no, leading to your next question.
How about, do you agree that the majority of criminals are going to have to be released from jail eventually?
Yes.
Then, go to your concluding question.
Since the offender is likely to be released anyway, doesn't it make sense that we help them adjust to freedom first, on a supervised parole?
Good point.
To help you prepare, think of several lines of questions like this, on both sides of the debate. But remember, a question tree is a guide, not a crutch. Suppose the affirmative surprises you and argues that it should be easier for white-collar criminals to get parole. Suppose the negative surprises you by agreeing with your opening arguments and then introducing a counterplan. Well, then you'll have to put aside those prepared questions for another debate and think on your feet.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The resolution before us today is be it resolved that Canada's parole system be significantly changed. Because Canada's parole system is so complex, it's important that we carefully define the terms of this resolution. For purposes of this debate, we will be discussing 4 types of conditional release: temporary absence, day parole, full parole, and mandatory supervision.
Cross-examination really begins the minute the debate does. Listen carefully to your opponent's speech. Will it suit your pre-planned questions? What other questions do you want to ask? Always match the questions to the debate.
The accepted goals of our prison system are to protect society from criminals, to ensure justice by punishing offenders who have committed criminal offenses, and to help rehabilitate offenders so that where possible, they may re-enter society comfortably and safely. But ladies and gentlemen, our current parole system does not meet any of these goals. I now stand open for cross-examination.
As you listen and plan, remember the strategic reasons for asking questions. First, to confirm basic information.
Could you please repeat for me your definition of day parole?
Certainly. Day parole is defined as the second step in the parole.
You can ask questions to clarify a point in your opponent's case that you didn't quite hear or understand. But if you listen carefully and are well prepared, you needn't spend valuable time on these information questions. Second, you can ask questions to establish your authority.
I see. Now, you mentioned a recent Solicitor General's report in which some 20% of paroled offenders committed new crimes while on parole.
That's right.
Were you aware that this recent study was released in 1981 and based on figures from the 1970s?
Yes.
If you're well prepared, you will realize if your opponent makes a mistake, contradicts herself, or seems ignorant of an important fact. You'll also know if she quotes facts or opinions out of context. You establish your authority by asking questions that show your opponent does not know the facts or is twisting them to unfair advantage. But remember to stop while you're ahead. As every good lawyer knows, you don't ask the witness a question if you don't know the answer.
I see. Do you have any more recent statistics for us?
As a matter of fact, I do. Let me share them with you.
Please do.
In 1988, a study showed that over 4%...
Good work. As you can see, an excellent witness must have the facts at hand. This brings us to our third reason to ask questions during a cross-examination, to focus the argument.
I now stand open for cross-examination.
Thank you. In your speech, you mentioned that you thought the emphasis of the penal system should be on rehabilitation rather than punishment. I'd like to ask you some more about this issue.
Please do.
Could you define rehabilitation for me, please?
Certainly. Rehabilitation is a highly structured process which necessarily...
You can use cross-examination to focus on the weakest elements of their case and the strongest points of your own. You can also use it to focus attention on the key philosophical differences between the two sides. With skillful cross-examination, you can set the agenda for the debate and determine the central issues. Fourth, use questions to undermine your opponent's case.
I see. Do you agree that one goal of the penal system is to protect society from criminals?
Yes, I certainly do.
And do you agree with the fact that convicted killer Michael Boniface escaped from unarmed guards, while on parole, went on to kill 2 young children?
Yes, I agree with that information.
Every cross-examination debater dreams of the perfect line of questions. You ask your innocent-sounding but dangerous questions. The foundations of your opponent's case crumble bit by bit. They end up admitting the central points of your case or agreeing with your fundamental philosophy. But that perfect cross-examination rarely happens because your opponent is usually smart enough to see where you're heading.
I see. So you agree that the system should protect people, but you admit that the parole system allowed Michael Boniface to kill again and again. The present system doesn't work, does it?
I'm sorry, the present system is not flawed. Just because the guard made an error, that doesn't mean that the parole system is flawed. And in case you weren't aware, Boniface was not on parole. He was on a weekend pass.
The best way to handle a line of questions is to lead your prey to the brink of the tiger pit and then let your partner push him in.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You have just heard the negative agree that our present system should protect people. However, as Chris also just admitted, the system does not meet its own goals. It allows innocent people to be murdered. And the Boniface case is just one example. We have seen several other cases.
Great cross-examination demands great teamwork. If your partner makes a good point in cross-examination, work it into your speech. And if your partner gets caught off guard by a question, make sure you're ready to repair the damage in your next speech. Now you have a better idea of what questions to ask and why to ask them. But how you ask and answer them is also important. Cross-examination is a polite, civilized proceeding, not the Spanish Inquisition. The examiner should control the question period in a firm, professional manner. In court, you can't bully answers out of people, and you can't in debate either.
Isn't it true that under the present system we're allowing murderers to kill again? And isn't it true that innocent people are dying?
That kind of cross-examination is counterproductive. You offend the judges, and you're unlikely to get a useful answer from your opponent. As a witness, if you face that tactic, don't get into a shouting match. Remain polite, but firm.
All right. Let me answer your questions one at a time. First of all, I believe that the parole system is safer for society in general because it allows offenders to readjust gradually to the outside world under supervision instead of being abruptly released when their prison sentences are completed.
As a witness, you should eagerly await questions. The best defense is a great offense. You can use this opportunity to explain a fuzzy part of your case, to re-emphasize a point, to turn the tables on your questioner by demonstrating that you know something more than he or she does. You should always be thinking at least one move ahead. When you're asked an innocent-sounding question, try to see where it's leading. Don't let yourself get cornered. But do answer questions politely. If you stall and waffle, you're not debating.
Do you acknowledge the fact that violent offenders released on parole have gone on to rape and murder other victims?
Well, that depends on what you mean by the word murder. If you're talking about manslaughter or second-degree murder, that's one situation. But if you mean first-degree murder, that's another question entirely.
Thank you very much. I think I can take that as a yes.
Hold it. You sound as if you're afraid to enter the duel. Think about it and try for a better debate answer. Could you give him the question again, please?
Do you acknowledge the fact that violent offenders released on parole have gone on to rape and murder other victims?
Unfortunately, that is true, but it only happens in a few well-publicized instances. These individual tragedies do not make the entire parole system invalid.
This time, by being brave enough to answer the question and actually clash, he was able to restate a major point in the case. Always remember, cross-examination does not happen in a vacuum. The questions and answers must involve direct clash. Excellent debaters know that questions and answers must dovetail with the debate as it evolves. You can't just rely on pre-planned question trees. Cross-examination debate is graceful, fast-moving, and exciting, a delicate game of thrust and parry. Keep questions and answers short and simple. This is not the time to make speeches. And make sure your questions aren't open-ended invitations for your witness to make a speech.
Can you tell me, what is the basic philosophy behind our parole system?
I think to answer that question, you have to look back to the story of Cain and Abel. Now, what we have there is the fact that Cain killed his brother, and God did not strike him down. Instead, he put him on a kind of parole, where he could live among other men, but not be a full-fledged part of the community. And that is the basic philosophy.
Excellent debaters integrate questions and answers into the debate. They work as a team to incorporate valuable admissions into their speeches. They use cross-examination time as examiners and as witnesses to build their cases. Finally, excellent debaters know it takes two to tango. Good cross-examination takes place because you have a good opponent. Both participants must be well-informed. Both must be good sportsmen who play by the rules of debate. Both must enjoy the exhilaration of direct clash, one-on-one. Cross-examination, the chance to match wits with another excellent debater, ask telling questions, demand proof, and get closer to the truth.